You talk about cabinet solidarity there, that used to be something, and I worked 10 years in the Howard government era. It used to be something you almost took for granted. I had bosses who were cabinet ministers come out of cabinet, go back to their desk, and I'd say, geez, what was the decision? They'd say, well, you can read it on the cabinet, but I'm not going to just talk about what was discussed in the room. They wouldn't give me a sense of who spoke for or against a particular item. And it never turned up in the papers the way it does now. And I think
No,
that's something we don't talk about enough, isn't it?
goes to character. We're able to do it because of character. We've been out of government for a long time. We believed in good policy. By the way, we had the backing of tremendous backing from a lot of industry groupings in those days. Business wasn't woke. Business actually believed in good outcomes for people and employing people and their wages rather than virtue signalling. And the NFF was unbelievably good in advocating for good policy. But it goes to character. It goes to sticking together with your mates through the thick and the thin because you believe in what you're doing. And you're quite right. During the 10 years that I was in cabinet, I hardly remember even the suggestion of a leak. And that went to the government's credibility and the sense of teamwork.
One of the things I notice every time I look at the budget papers, and I think this is because, like I grew up in a country town in a regional area, is the weight of regional Australia in terms of their contribution, and not just agriculture, export dollars, of course, but a lot of our mining exports, our resource exports come from regional communities. And I'm not so sure that those in urban areas understand that, appreciate that enough. They talk down regional Australia, call them rednecks. They think that their votes can be basically dismissed because the big seats, the big numbers are in our big cities around the country. And there's anger also involved in all of this now with the rollout of renewables and the way in which a lot of regional communities and profitable, really good farmland will now be crisscrossed and basically put out of operation due to transmission towers and wind farms and these massive solar panel installations. How do you think regional Australia feels this budget week?
I think somewhat cynical and forgotten, but probably increasingly alarmed at the direction of things. Very interesting that we've had reports recently, astute observation made the other day, is that we, like most countries in the world, we have a cost of living crisis, but we also have a cost of manufacturing crisis. It's costing so much to do business in this country that our biggest single manufacturing sector, which is food production and fibre production and drinks production, servicing the Australian people and many times more people internationally because we export so much, it's at risk in this country. Can you believe it? And maybe that'll be a wake-up call for people. The regions matter, and we have a government backed by Greens and independents who seem determined to even push the government's not only ignorance of what we do in the regions, but frankly, their desire to shut down every industry that creates wealth. I mean, we're against all the things, it seems, that make us money. And the response needs to be calm, tough reason. Again, a lesson from history. The 80s were not good years for farming, and we had a Labor government that in some ways was certainly better than the current Labor government, a lot better. But agriculture was being ignored. And with the leadership of the NFF and country members of Parliament, a really calm, determined, won't back away approach was adopted to tackling the government of the day. There was an incredible rally in Canberra. The Prime Minister, Bob Hawke, came out to address it. And it started to create some movement that was backed by careful research and policy development, not just whinging.